The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Emotions. And if you've been watching my past programs, you will know that all the problems of life begin with your reaction to stress. All your traumas, all your suffering, all your bad memories, all the things that are negative in your life are emotional based. And this evening we're going to continue a discussion that's been going on for some weeks, and hopefully some time into the future if this program is supported. And I just want to turn to my group here and see if we can't get them involved again, get them all stirred up like we did last week. I just want you to know that I'm opening up the floor for questions, and you can speak about anything you like, but just to set the stage a little bit, I think I want to just mention the danger of intellectualizing what you are learning here, that all of you have been to school and been subject to various pressures there. Church too, I'm afraid, is a culprit, and you've learned as a result of reacting to pressure. And that's opened your mind from the outside so that you are programmed and impressed. But it closes the door to the inner so that you start to evolve as a personality, yes, that too, as well as your memories. Your whole life is externally based and very shallow. So you can understand nothing. You think you understand because you think you understand. You see, because you've lost the understanding what understanding really is. So I'm asking you this evening to see if you can sort of understand that. Stand back inside yourself, you sort of, in a sense, you look at me for a moment, and I begin to look weird. I mean, I look weird anyway, but just stand back and as if you were looking through your eyes rather than with your eyes. See? Looking with is different. Have you ever driven a car down the highway one night and notice your hands on the steering wheel? And it looks like you're in a movie. It's like, whose hands are these? You're looking out through the windows of your soul, you know, through your eyes, and there's two of you. And if you could stand back from your thoughts and just look at me for a moment and just see my words coming out of my mouth, and let it go through one ear and come out the other, because there's nothing in the way to stop it, and I mean that. I don't mean that as a joke. There must be no ego, no attempt to try to remember everything I'm saying. Intellectualize it. All I want to do is ring your bells. Ding, you know, something clicks. See, it's called the aha experience. Don't worry if you don't remember everything. And that's the way you're going to discover, because the personality that evolves from learning is not the same personality that evolves from discovering. And the schools won't let you discover, because you will not be, you won't be a pawn for the mines and for the factories and for the jobs. They don't want individuals. We talk about individuality in America and the free world, but there are forces in this world that are just going to program you for whatever purposes that it suits them. They're there. They're pulling the strings from behind the scenes, you understand? You can feel it, the loss of values in the school system, just teaching people facts and not teaching virtues and character and things like that. Turning out little animals that you build more jails for, you need more hospitals for, need more drugs for, more operations, more psychiatry, more funds for government. The more problems they have, the better it is. They love to come solving problems. They love to solve problems, but never really get to the cause, and we're going to get to causes tonight. And one of the causes of your problems is you react to stress, you react to the pressure, and you start to learn. And you start to learn who you are and from your environment, and you become addicted to your environment. It's because once you start growing from the environment, the other way of growing from the inner environment, from the real person, your center of being, disappears. And you forget who you are. And you think what you're becoming, and you think reacting to stress is normal. And you have to react to function. You have to have challenge. You have to have the pressure. I work better under pressure, people say. Stupid. Kids have to have the music on in order to stimulate their brain so they can learn with the music lessons. Something sick about that. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Now, I'm glad to see. Now, you may have troubles. I'm sure my audience already has picked up on the fact that you can't learn, you can't study. Some of you have not been able to learn. Some of you have rejected religion completely and gone just the opposite way, you see, and found that's not opposite. It's the same. Because if you're rejecting the knowledge of good, you're accepting the knowledge of evil. And if you're accepting the knowledge of good, that ain't good, because it's the original sin, the knowledge of good and evil, once imbibed to make oneself prideful. See? That is the problem. So you can have a problem being, an apple polisher and a scholar. You can have a tremendous conflict over being successful and having knowledge. And you may feel so conflicted that you'll give up a good career because somehow it's boring, it's deadening. So you couldn't learn because it was deadening. It is deadening. Letter killeth, the spirit giveth life. Here I'm in danger of giving a talk tonight. Let me ask you a question. Did you understand what I was saying? How many people relate to that? Everybody, eh? Nobody, everybody's a victim of it. Now, I am not saying that you shouldn't learn. I'm saying you shouldn't study. You shouldn't absorb. And you have to look at your reaction to your environment, which is the means by which you have been programmed to be a little wind-up toy for the system. And we have to uncondition you to that, because you see, you throw the baby out with the bath water. You should be learning, but you should be learning what you see as, what you realize is good for you. And you should be learning at your own speed. And you should be discovering religion in the same way. See, your ear is not a sausage skin to funnel all kinds of words and verses and chapters and bits and pieces of good knowledge or whatever knowledge it is. It's not going to help you. It's deadening. The letter killeth. The knowledge of good or the knowledge of evil isn't any good if it's under pressure. And the teacher's known that. You think after all these thousands of years of school and more curriculums and more education, you think they ought to figure that one out already, wouldn't you? What's wrong with the kids and why even Einstein couldn't stand the pressures. He failed at his mathematics. He needed to go at his own speed, and then he became a genius. Now, each one of you is capable of being a genius, and I brought 5 kids into the world that were damaged by the school system before I realized enough to stop it, see? But the damage is minimal now, and I took them out of school, and I never exposed them to religion except my tutelage, which was gentle and good example. And so they're growing up to be brilliant. But they've been more brilliant had I not sent them to school at all. Not subjected them to those pressures, had I protected them from the insanity of the world that molded them and shaped them and wanted to destroy the real self and displace it with another self that's hungry after everything. See? More knowledge to solve the problems of knowledge. So see that? That's what we got. That's what we have in our world. The more knowledge we have, the more problems we have. The more problems we have, the more it cries out for more knowledge. And you keep ever learning but never coming to the knowledge of truth. The world will be destroyed by knowledge. It will be saved by truth. But you have to give up knowledge. I didn't say you mustn't give up knowing. You have to give up knowledge. Losing yourself in thought. Thinking that if you learn more and study more and get more languages and another degree, all of your world life will be better. It'll be worse. You can't do it. Something tells you it's wrong. Listen to it. See? They're crazy out there. The teachers are nuts. They're all apple polishers. They're all the ones that survived to go on being teachers, inheriting that kingdom, and setting you up to fail, to turn you into animals and not people. Pawns for the system. They've all given up their principles for a piece of paper. They didn't question authority. I'm saying you have to question authority. Yes, young lady.
What makes some people different? The ones that question and then those that don't. And they're brought up in the same family, and I was like that. And in 9th grade, I dropped
I'm like that. I don't know what it is about you. I don't know what it is about me. My teacher said to me, "You're going to learn this piece of French poetry." I said, "Like hell I will." He chased me around the study. I said, "You're not going to beat me up either." It was a boarding school, so I couldn't get out, you know. But I will not learn. He said, "That's good for your brain." I said, "I'll decide what's good for my brain." It isn't to learn that junk and to fill your mind with French puffy poetry. You know, pardon the vernacular. I'm usually strong on words occasionally. That's what it is.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I had an experience where I was being raped by a man when I was 19.
Yeah.
And I didn't hate him. I didn't know him from Adam, but I didn't hate him. And I remember thinking, if I could just remember, Cosmopolitan had an article about what you should do if you were going to be raped.
Yeah,
And I
take a
didn't read
45. That's what you need to do
But
if you
I
know
didn't-
ahead of time.
But I didn't read it.
Yeah.
And I thought, and something happened. I was removed from the situation. I
Yes.
was watching it, and you know what? All of a sudden, I knew exactly what to do without even, and I escaped without being violated.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm unscratched.
Do you see? You see, it's excitement and your weakness, your reaction to the stress of environment that signals to the rapist where they rape your mind with education. See?
But I
That
didn't
is-
have any.
I know, but it's your lack of true determination, lack of true grit, this quality we were speaking about just now, that signals to the oppressor whether you are his legal prey. You know, forgive me for saying this, but the underworld has a set of laws and rules. They do have a set of rules, and they can't have you. For instance, the mafia are, in a sense, that kind of noble group. They have their rules and regulations, and they hold fast to it. They take care of one another. I mean, they're not treacherous with one another, and you know, if you betray them, you're dead. That's the justice. But as long as you're in the group, then you owe your life to that group, and you're part of it. You're a brother, and a soldier. And it's not like the government, you know, they're full of treacherous bureaucrats. It's more honest, at least, I think. Not that either one of them are right. But if you don't do business with them, then they recognize that, and you don't owe them anything. The minute you start to do business, the minute you cross that threshold, they own you. You understand that? Well, that's the same with the world of the spirit world of good and the spirit world of evil. It's the same thing. You don't dare cross that threshold. But those people, those rapists, and those spiritual murderers that murder the minds of our children, they know who is their legal prey. They can't touch us. When you're young and you grow up, you find everybody else conforming, but somehow they can't hack it. But you see, we don't know we're different, but we are different. And it's that difference that keeps us from going crazy and being like the rest of the world. Everybody else looks alike. They look like they're, good morning, good night, good evening, and how you doing, and usual. You can engage in small talk, and surface-wise, people seem, I didn't know when I was young that people were different from me. I thought they were the same, but I couldn't understand how they treated me the way they did, see? So it's taken me a long, long time to understand that I'm not the same as everyone else, and nor are you. That you're very, very different, and you are still within the sight of values that you were born with, that you can grow from. And I don't want you to doubt that. But the spirit of the serpent is still in the world, wanting to possess you and live through you and exist through you. See? And making you doubt those values. But if you don't doubt those values, then you will grow. Each experience, like you experienced it, will make you a better human being. And they'll look at you as though they've seen a ghost. they have the Holy Ghost. See?
Funny, 'cause you want to blend in, but you can't.
Do you know, again in principle, that men can't approach a lady. He can't get fresh with a lady. There's something about a real lady that is coming from the right place that's scary to that kind of man. Only the whore type woman, one of easy virtue, that one is exciting to the man, and it excites him towards her and her to take advantage of his advantage taking. But the real lady would never have a problem with rape. See, never have problems with men. She drives this by her dignity and by the wall she puts around her, the virtue. She keeps all but the right suitors from entering. Is that making sense to you? Yeah. That's why I encourage you to be ladies and gentlemen, and that there are rewards for this sort of thing beyond your wildest dreams. And you don't listen to the safe sex experts. See, those noodles in charge. See, because they're going to destroy this nation. They don't care for you. See, they have another master they're not even aware of, that's operating through them. So, but your mind can be raped the same way, but you'll escape the rapist of your mind, of your body, if you just do what you say you do, because that's when you're in your center, that's when your dignity shines. I'm sitting here talking to you with that quality. Do you see it? It's like a light. I can talk to you so directly. I can talk from my soul to your soul. I don't play with words. I don't run around in the mulberry bush to get to a point. It's straight from my heart to yours. I know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's full of confidence.
You're not afraid to die. It's like you're not afraid. I wasn't afraid to die. I said to myself when it was
There
happening,
you go.
I said, either he's going to die or I'm going to die. And that's exactly what happened. And as soon as I thought that,
As soon as you lose your fear of death,
I was free.
you're free.
It was.
So as soon as you lose your compulsion to possess possessions, you possess possessions. See? The more you want, the less you can have. See? There are rules. And they'll come to you. I shall open up the windows of heaven, and you shall not room enough to receive it. See?
I'm in great conflict right now.
What for?
Well, all these experiences that happened to me early, I'm almost 30 now. And I had cancer, and I was cured, and I wasn't afraid of dying then, and I got saved.
It's your overreaction to the condition that makes the condition.
Yes.
If you get an ulcer, it's because you've reacted in a way that gives you that ulcer. You've reacted badly. The problem of the outside gets inside and manifests itself as an illness, let's say ulcers. Now you start to resent the problem on the inside like you do on the outside in order to deal with it. That's how you've always dealt with it. Now your ulcer gets worse. You're giving it power. See? And all you have to do is stand back and come into your center again and see that of yourself you can do nothing. See? That your ego is trying to struggle to cure itself rather than and distracting itself from what really went wrong, from seeing the mistake of hating your boss or your mother or your father, see? And repenting of that, but egos never want to repent. Egos will always struggle with its own problem.
Well, I hate to monopolize everybody's time.
Plus nobody else is talking, so be my guest. They're all dummies here this evening.
While I was driving here, I was very nervous, and I'm doing the meditation, every day.
Is that when you got the cure of the cancer because of the med?
No, this happened when I was 18.
Oh.
There was a series of things that happened in my late teens.
Because that would have happened in the meditation. If you would have found me on radio or television and learned to meditate, what you have described as the curative process, the standing back, the looking at yourself and not being part of the emotions, and not giving up the struggle and the anger towards yourself. Obviously, you've given up anger towards other people too, haven't you?
I have. Yes,
there has to be. Well, that's all part of your curative process.
Well, you know what? Can you start to unfold before you meditate? Because I thought I was unfolding before I was meditating.
Of course. The unfolding, Roy Masters, you never have to meet Roy Masters. All Roy Masters does is they accelerate the process of your unfoldment. I think that I'm put on this earth for a very special reason. Time is very short. You probably would have discovered it yourself. I didn't have anybody to teach me. You don't need anyone to teach you. All I'm doing is confirming what you already know.
Because my father couldn't tell me. 'Cause
Your
he-
father couldn't tell you, so you're searching, and you are growing already before you ever met me. Otherwise, you couldn't have recognized where I was coming from, because you were coming from and going to the same place without you realizing it. The rest of the world, to hell with them. You know what I mean? Who cares? I'm only interested. Like I've always said, I only want to work with easy people. The hard ones, let the psychiatrist have them.
Well, I'm having,
I mean, it's not going to do them any good, but they need something.
I'm having a big conflict because I work in the gaming industry. I know. It's-
Shame, shame, shame.
I only got involved in it because I had to support a son that I had.
Yeah, well, get out of it as soon as you can.
I'm trying. You know what it is? There's no way I can get out of
Save
this.
your money and run.
Or what if I just give everything up that I have,
Well, let's not go into that now, because we're getting into, we are now monopolizing we are now bringing your whole life into this.
Yes, okay.
Anybody else want to comment? Yes, sir.
I have problems relating to women.
You do you? Well, welcome to the club. Is there any man here that doesn't have problems with I'll show you a chicken with teeth if you got one.
No, but the thing that I focused on,
That's your problem, is the thing you focus on. No wonder you got problems with women.
when I was 4 years old, I hit the corner of a chest. They have clothes in,
Yes.
in the groin area, and my penis never got very big. And
I don't think that cured. I don't think that was the cause.
that's what I focused on.
I know. I think you've blamed your lack of development, which I think is in the mental
what-
departments
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
You see, it's something. I don't think that's the cause. I think, you make the mistake like a lot of people do. And this is what the ego does. It grows up a little short of what it should be. In other words, we're as guilty as hell. I don't mean that. I mean, you're just a little ahead of me. I meant, we're short on character. I mean, that was an honest mistake. Anyway, grow up. We grow up a little bit wrong, guilty. And the guilt will never allow us, the spirit of guilt, which is pridefulness, which is a war with reality. That's why you make excuses. It puts up a shield, and it will not let you face what it will not allow itself or you to come to that reality. It always makes you doubt and gives you excuses. Here's something talking to you, giving you excuses all the time. But anyway, it will always. Its thinking is your thinking. You have no original thought in your head except that you realize you haven't got an original thought in your head. And so therefore, when you're guilty, it's like you thinking. It will come up with a reason for why you are sick or have troubles that isn't the reason at all. And then it will help you worry an answer and get you more deeply involved in producing problems, because worry is a reverse faith. I always say, you want faith? Don't worry. Don't worry. But you see, if you give up, people say, what faith? What's faith? What is well, just, if you want the faith, give up worry. Resist the temptation to wallow in that doubt, which is a reverse faith. A reverse faith for the reverse person. It's like a faith. If I make you doubt yourself, if I have truth, see, and then you talk me out of it, make me doubt myself, I believe in you. Well, you're the doubt person. Now I'm made out of that. It's like faith. I have to doubt in order to exist. A little bit of your spirit is in me, needing to doubt. It's kind of faith. See, that helps you to avoid the truth of what you've become through doubt. You're a different person, but it will always give you a reason that isn't the reason at all and confuse you. And you get worse. That is not the reason. I'm sure that isn't the reason why
I
you...
couldn't my mother too, I couldn't,
Your problem was your reaction to your mother.
I couldn't show her the way I felt.
No, you could, because your mother was what? A manipulating, dehumanizing, emasculating witch. And your father was a wimp.
He was alcoholic.
Yeah, well, you couldn't handle your father, couldn't handle your mother.
But she wasn't overbearing like you.
But she took your masculinity away, and it wasn't the corner chest. Okay? And now you're going to have, now that's, can we be finished with that now?
Yeah.
And now we're going to look for the real reason. And of course you've been listening to my programs for quite some time, haven't you?
3 weeks, about
3 weeks. All right, well, you need to get some of my books.
I dropped by today and got your...
You need to get
tapes
acquainted.
And the,
Okay.
and the book, and then I...
So you're just beginning,
Yeah.
so I have to leave you out so much of the discussion this evening, although it's nice of you to bring that idea up because it gave me an opportunity to express the thought that I haven't done for a long time. But you have to become objective, and you have to find that position, that condition of mind this young lady is in. You must separate you from you, or the you from the not you, because otherwise one cannot oppose the other. You can't be involved in the swamp and help yourself, or help anybody else. Somehow you're going to have to be saved from the swamp of your thoughts, and then some way, by separating from the mire of your thinking, there is just by understanding and being connected to the source of understanding is the power over the thought process and over the emotion process. It's like waking up from a dream and having a nightmare. The only way to wake up from the nightmare, the only way to solve the problems of a nightmare is to wake up. Then the nightmare goes away. There's something about being aware and awake that tells you that's just a dream, it's not real, so don't get upset, don't get excited. It stops feeding the problem. See? And that's what we have to do here, and this is what I hope I've done this evening. And tomorrow we're going to continue on with the same nincompoops that I hear this. Okay? I say that endearingly because we are all nincompoops in this world. We're all seeking the truth. See you tomorrow night.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Emotions, and we are involved in a heavy discussion. And in our last episode, we had a gentleman in the audience who's still here, who thought that the problem, his sexual problem, was caused by hitting himself in the groin on the corner of a chest of drawers. And I said nothing could be further the truth. What I was saying was, and still am saying, and I think he understands it, that his ego, like everyone's ego, rather than admit the real reason, races intellectually through a process called worry, and always comes up with the wrong answer. Because the ego is the pride of life, it's the wrong spirit. It's the spirit of the earth. It's the same spirit as, you might say, the spirit of the Garden of Eden, the spirit of the serpent. It's in there, and it's the pride of life. And once it's in there, it can only survive if you don't face the truth. So it naturally doesn't want you to pinpoint the cause of the problem, because it will die. And some of you may really become very disturbed this evening hearing this. The last time we had, it was last week, a lady had an exorcism, if you remember that, because all of a sudden she became aware of this other self through my discussions and her responses to her awakening. And she began to see this self, and she had a little exorcism for about 3 or 4 minutes. It was gone, and she's fine. And everyone has a self in them that isn't them. You've heard the expression, "I'm not myself" lately. You know. I don't know what got into me. I don't know what came over me. I've got you under my skin. See? Well, if you're not yourself, who the hell are you? You know what I mean? No, we don't understand those little colloquialisms. We don't. It's all subconsciously expressed. And yes, young lady.
Roy, I'm aware of an identity that I have in me that's not me.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like it holds me prisoner. I
It
almost
does.
feel paralyzed.
It does.
And I usually get this feeling in the presence of authority, or
Exactly.
there's me in there that has things to say, and
But authority won't let you.
but I can't get out. I mean,
No.
I'm stuck.
I know, because you know, you've expressed it very well, because it came from the wrong authority. Who is the right authority? I mean, when Christ was here, didn't he go up against all the authorities? He says, listen to what they're saying, but don't be like them. He says, you know all the secrets of the kingdom, but you won't enter into yourself, and you stop everybody else from coming through the door. Not so many words. He said that. He says, you don't go into yourself, and you hinder everyone else that's at the door. The authority of this world is a power-hungry madman. And I don't care, everyone who wants power is an egomaniac. And of course, the people who get into government are the people who want power, so all the wrong people are in power. See, teachers, they want to be teachers, they want to be somebody. And they end up confusing the hell out of all the kids. They're not interested in teaching, they're interested in confusing and confounding and showing themselves in a good light with the kids, or degrading, knocking them other kids down, and you'll never be anything, you'll be a garbage collector if you don't learn, pressuring the kids out of all the common sense that they're born with, delivering those little souls to their master. You know what I'm saying? Something's wrong with authority. And not that authority is a bad thing, because if we had a good authority, if we had good parents, and if we had good teachers, if we had good government, and with Mr. Reagan, I know that everybody is against him, a lot of people are, but I think he's the greatest, because he's a common sense man, and this common sense is a war with all the intellectuals, all the little serpent people. See? And there's a war between common sense, the spirit of common sense, and the spirit of the spirit of not so common sense, the spirit of the intellect. I've been heard to say quite often. The spirit of the intellect are all those people who have given up their own common sense, and they've developed a spirit of pride, and Satan is their master. I'm sorry to say, and they look like they're normal people, they look like they're knowledgeable, and they are the authorities of the world, but there's something wrong operating through them that has a very negative effect on people like you and me.
And then you doubt, you feel like you want to be with them.
That's right. You try to, have you ever tried to deal with bureaucrats? They love that power, they like to confuse you, they make things difficult for you. Mountains of paperwork that doesn't mean anything. The whole purpose is confusion, so that you don't understand, so therefore you defer your own common sense. You defer what would otherwise be common sense to their rules and regulations. And once you start to react to that, you start to become the extension of it. And in other words, it's like you're God, and you can't speak up to God. That's why you can't oppose God, because there's something that the brainchild, the alien, if you like, that's of them, that's crept into you by being violated, by being around those kinds of people. Ever since the day you were born, it's called the earthling or the changeling. That's that other self that I was referring to a little while ago. It grows up, and what violates you, what has been in charge of your development, your education, your religious training, your upbringing, by pressuring you and causing you to react so that you can't grow from who you were when you were born and the design you were meant to manifest, the inner authority. Do you follow that?
Yeah.
Even the cameraman's digging it. See, he just saw something, you see. See, now what you are is the extension of that spirit. So in other words, if you speak up to that authority, it's like talking to God, and if they give you disapproval, you vaporize.
That's right. That's right.
You cease to exist.
I've had to literally say right before I go into my mother's house that, wait a minute, she can't whoop me. In order to help disarm myself.
But you
It's
can.
worse.
But you can.
Yeah.
See, because that's what, in religious parlance, you need salvation. You need to transfer. You got to die to the world, and you've got to be born again from a new authority. And this old authority tries to make you doubt what you know. Now, where is this magic? Where is this magic of transference? Are you going to go along transferring yourself from one authority to another? First of all, it's your mother, then it's your wife, then it's your doctor, then it's your psychiatrist, then your prison warden, I don't know what I mean, then the undertaker. And then the guy with the horns. He's been behind all that all along, you see. It's no joke. See, what's the magic of transference? How do we do this? Well, let me tell you what it is, and I keep coming back to the point again. It's because you've been made to doubt yourself. The Garden of Eden story is precisely the root of the human condition, of our suffering. You doubt what you know is right. When you doubt, we had a whole lecture on doubt not long ago, maybe you saw it on TV. It's good to bring a little bit forward again. You doubt what you know is right. Doubt what you're born to know without words. See? So now the words come in and take their place. That's the spirit of knowledge. And of course the violation, the schism, there's a separation, a big separation. It's called a schism, schizophrenia, separation that takes place, so that once you fall and start to doubt what you know, it's a psychic jujitsu, a psychic karate. You fall and you hang on to that person because the only way you can be is from that person. And then you find the relief in doubting what you know. That's why we have drugs. We study harder, thinking we can be more by studying. Study is a drug. You can be a workaholic, a knowledge-aholic. See, the spirit of that world, the spirit of doubt is behind even music. Do you know what I heard one time when Jimmy Carter was visiting the East Coast, and he was visiting some of the very poor people who lived in some of those islands off the coast of Carolinas. And I heard it very clearly, and it's what startled me. And they live in these little poor shacks, and they play this dumb music. I got to say it, it's dumb music. You know, and they jump around, and they, you know, hop and skip and a jump, and all their juices are flowing for a second. It seems so silly because they're old and they can't jump very much, and it looks pathetic. And so one man says, but see, all we have is our music, and music gives us hope. How on earth can music give you hope? Because it distracts from hopelessness. It makes you doubt. It takes you away from realizing your hopelessness. See, and allows us to continue pridefully. That's drugs, that's music, that's Valium, it's education, anything. See, we set a bigger goal. All it is, I have to give you a good example of this. I was sitting in a restaurant, a Japanese restaurant. It's the first time I ever went to one. And they had 15 different dishes, and every dish had a little tiny bit of food in it. And they kept dish after dish, and I'm hungry. I said, what's the matter? This is going into my hollow tooth. It doesn't get to my stomach. What's the idea, Brink? Why can't you put it all on one dish and be honest about it? And the waiter said, looking forward to something is better than having it. You have hope. Look forward it pulls you. See, if you don't have something that distracts you, you have hopelessness. What pulls you away from realization is this false hope. See. And it's as simple as that. Just have to see that it's a false faith that we have in ourselves. And there's a wrong spirit behind that. It's a false faith. For instance, if you make me doubt myself, Okay, we're talking about this doubt. You make me doubt myself. I know what's right. I'm a little kid. Everybody gangs up on me because I'm a troublemaker in school. You know, that's the way it is. Teacher says so. The kids have all conformed. And here I am, being made to doubt myself. Well, when I'm made to doubt myself, what happens? I transfer my faith to the person that makes me doubt myself. I have a reverse faith. Doubt is a reverse faith, and something comes into us that depends upon doubting, because it must have, you start to believe in authority. You start to look for reassurance. The reassurance is that you're okay. Somehow we sense that doubting ourselves is the cause of our problem, so we never want to doubt ourselves again. Who understands that? The trouble is, we seek reinforcement. We seek reinforcement. We should be doubting ourselves, because unless you doubt a second time, in other words, once you become wrong, you want to doubt that you are wrong. But there's a strange, who's following me? Deep down in our psyche, that we've never remembered, perhaps forgotten, never remembered, whatever. Deep down inside, we know that our problem's root, the root of it is doubting ourselves. But when we doubt ourselves, we become wrong. Now a new spirit crops up in there, and now we feel anxiety. We know that something's wrong. That's fine, something is wrong. But now we don't want to ever doubt again, we don't want to doubt again. So now we duplicate that. Now we learn our lesson in the wrong way. We try to believe in ourselves. We try not to doubt ourselves anymore. In other words, we're going to believe in ourselves this time, but we believe in the wrong self. And all the wrong people rush in to help you. Positive thinking, anyone? Friends. Now you want to know why saying no to drugs won't work? Because drugs help us not to doubt ourselves, to believe in ourselves. It's the forbidden fruit. All of these forces of the supportive forces, see, of the fallen condition rise to the occasion through that forbidden fruit. Yes, sir.
How do you get to your right self that you can believe?
Am I making sense to you in all this?
Yeah, but I don't know how do you get back to your right self?
Well, it's very simple. Who understood what I just said?
I think you said doubt the doubt.
You know, you have to doubt the doubt. In other words, you have to stop believing in yourself. You have to stop looking for approval. You have to see that this searching for knowledge in books, this need to take drugs, this need to lose yourself in music, this need for friendship is really fiendship. Because behind all that, you see, is a need to believe in oneself and never doubt. But you have to doubt that you're right. See, everyone likes to be right. We don't want to be wrong. If I go on the radio and television and say, well, Roy Masters, you know, is sinless. Everybody starts laughing. Roy Masters is without sin. Everybody starts making fun at me. But if you just look at the average world, nobody likes to admit they're wrong. Do they? Well, that's in a sense, that is sinless. You see, same thing. Make excuses. We confuse other people. If you're a mother, you never want to be wrong. Have you ever tried to argue with a woman when she's got the power and the ego? The kids are in for a big, roller coaster. She'll make them doubt themselves and confuse the hell out of her husband. The husband tries to be reasonable, and what's in her is threatened by that reason. It doesn't want to be controlled. It doesn't want to be submitted to higher authority. It wants to be over everything, beneath nothing. It always wants to be right, never wrong. You try to confront anybody when they're wrong. You have a funny feeling around their face. It's called embarrassment, shame. Some people are so good, instantly, all these excuses go up. They try to confuse you, confound you, make you really think you're wrong for thinking they're wrong. Right now, the homosexuals are on a campaign. You're a homophobic. There's something wrong with you for seeing something wrong with them. Well, this is dangerous because they're making you doubt yourself, and that campaign is making children doubt themselves. Morning, noon, and night, bombarding television, radio, newspapers. The kids come into the world and they see all this, and it made to doubt themselves, and immediately they become perverted. See? And there's a whole new support system. It is that subtle. So if Mrs. Reagan can think that you can have a campaign to children to say no to drugs, she's very, very naive. I know she means well. I know she's a nice lady. But you need to look to people like me to set the record straight. See? This may be too heavy for young kids, but I don't think so. I think I could talk to a school and tell them where the problem really lies in no uncertain terms. And the kids will understand. You know why? Because they're closer to heaven when they're young than when they're old. And they know more the day they're born than the day they die. And they do know more than their elders.
Yeah, they do.
For a little child shall lead them. That's exactly what Christ said. Isn't that right? They know more. You knew more when you were young, didn't you?
Sure did.
I did. I knew more than my teachers. Because the potential of every human being is, all he needs to is to unfold. And there's everything he needs within himself. But that is what is an offense, a threat to the system of power and egotism in this world. Now, what were you going to say?
I had my children this last weekend over Mother's Day, and when I took them home, before I had taken them home, I kind of lost my temper with them, and I snapped at them. And on the way home, I apologized to them.
Okay.
I told them, I says, Mommy just had a long weekend, and she's tired, and she didn't feel good.
That's the excuse.
That's right. And
You should have said I was wrong.
Yeah, and I told them, I said, all this, I said, wasn't right. And I said, what I did was wrong, and I said, I'm sorry.
You did say that?
Yeah, and I told them, I says, I says, whenever that happens, because they've corrected me before.
Good.
And I have told them, they know about you, and they know I listen to you. They've seen you on TV, and they've listened to you on tapes.
How old are they?
12, 11, and 8.
And they understand me?
Oh, yes,
You bet your bippies they do.
they do. And they told me, I told them, I says, I says, when Mommy gets like this, I said, just say, Mommy, if you talk to me nicer, then I'll listen.
No, you should tell them, so listen, Mommy, you're being impatient, and there's wickedness coming through,
That's right. They've told me that, too.
and it's sticking in me. You know about impatience? Impatience isn't just an emotion, that you take an aspirin for. Everybody's impatient, and that seems like a normal thing. Why not? You get frustrated and impatient. Impatience is evil. It's a projection. And this leads me to discussing the two types of hatred. One is caused by impatience and the reaction to impatience. Understand that? Impatience is injustice. It's with something, you're fidgety. When in your fallen state, you know what I mean by your mother was impatient with you, and you reacted to her, and then you gave your life to her. She bit you like a vampire. And she took your strength, and she gave you identity, and you couldn't say no to her in anything. And you grew up to be just like her, without any life of your own. And now, how do you live as a replica of your mother? By being patient with your own children. And what does that do? It kills them. They react. You're setting them up to respond, to obey, to be obedient to the world around. You can't serve two masters. You can't respond to an angry mother with a spirit of pride in her who is determined to make you respond to her as God. See? To look up to her and respect her and have all that is due to God to you. So, you can't serve two masters. Either you respond to one, you love one and you hate the other. So that's why women do that with their children. What they do, they need the power. Because in a fallen state, they are very much like a vampire and a zombie. Your mother was the vampire, and when you grew up, you were a little zombie. She took all your life out of you and put her nature in you, and you grew up with her in you, and now you're her, but you have no life of your own. And you have to project, you have to create more little zombies for the kingdom. So you bite, and you backbite, and you get upset, and you make the kids react, and pretty soon, boom, they start to react, and a little bit of you gets in them, and they have to give up their energy. They have to give up their innocence. Is that right? And they start to become formed in your image. Yes, young lady.
You always say, I've heard you say on the radio, it always comes from your mother and never your father.
No, it can't be your father. Your father's a nothing.
I have my father's identity in me.
No, it's your mother's. There's no way on earth it can be your father, because father's nothing.
Was a violent person.
Yes,
and
but
he was
it-
a tyrant.
yes,
I
but-
have that in me.
No, it's
And
your mother.
His wife, who was not my mother, but that doesn't matter, was a wimp,
Yes.
and I can't.
The roles were
stand-
reversed.
Yes, exactly.
But it's a woman in there.
Well,
Listen, let me say it this way. Let me put it this way. With all due respect, ladies, you've had mothers, and you're women, and women know women better than men do, right? Except I have a little insight on you. What's good? Women know women pretty well, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no secrets between women, are there? What women know, men don't know, right? I'm telling you this, and you can take it for whatever you want, that if you take the Adam and Eve story and duplicate it in life, you see that men are weak for women and supportive of their ego. You see that there's no God. There's no God in that life. There's no God in a drug addict, drug pusher relationship. The God of the pusher, the God of the pushover is the pusher. His whole life revolves around the fix. Now, the same with when you violated in the Garden of Eden, it had to start somewhere, and it comes down to us. You see it's still alive. Women are offering that forbidden support for egos. And you know, it's part of psychology to stroke men's egos and support them as if this was normal. It isn't. It's the way men die to women, and women die to men. But it's also a reason why reverse roles and reverse power takes place. The woman becomes the strong one. The man becomes the wimp or the weak one, or he becomes violent. But I must tell you this, that whenever you have a violent man, see, it is really a violent woman.
I can see that.
See,
I
it's
can
a-
see his mother in him.
You got it.
I can.
No, so therefore, it's a woman. It's the woman that in him that's done that to you. The man is non-existent. He is nobody. See, there's the woman and the woman-dependent man. Cause and effect. Effect, looking for the reinforcement of its cause. It's called love. See? You can create false loves. I can make you love anything. I can make you love him. And he's not very lovable. Yeah, I can make you love the back end of a bus. I can make you love to drink blood
I had such a love
by
relationship.
corrupting you with that object. See what I mean?
I had such a love-hate relationship with him that I was miles away when he was dying, and I knew he was going to die.
Sure.
I picked it up. I knew he was, and I hadn't talked to him or heard from him in years.
And you also,
But it was
were you relieved when you died, or were you relieved when he died?
I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, well, you're not so bad off then. I just see that we're... Yes, young lady, just real quick.
I have a question along the same line, what she was talking about. One night I came in here, I listened to one of your lectures, and I came up to you afterwards and shook your hand.
Yes.
And the comment you made to me was, there's a man in there.
Did I?
Yes, you did. And you know, you made me think all the way home. I thought about this comment. And you know, I've always been very, very aggressive.
Yes.
And
Dominant.
yes, yes. And
And
I used
powerful.
to have a lot of hatred and resentment towards my father because the way my father treated me.
Well,
I was-
let's say that for our next program. I'll show you how a man gets into a woman. I'll show you that in our next discussion group. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to bring my attention back to the audience because we've got them involved with this pretty much. So if you want to hear more in the next episode, it's better than the soaps. Except I don't get paid for this. You have to support the program. If you don't, it's Coitons. And it's the end of it. I mean, this is very expensive television, and you know, so I have to get it from someone. I'm not the government. I can't print money. Thank you very much.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, Much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. Actually, it should be how to control all your emotions, because, truthfully, you shouldn't have any emotions. Oh, I know, that makes the egomaniac scream in pain. Because the root of egotism and the root of pride and the pride sustenance is rooted in emotion. You know, in the Starship Enterprise, the Captain Kirk and his compadres thought themselves to be very fortunate that they had emotions, unlike Spock, who was a Vulcan. But he had just intelligence, and he couldn't feel like they did. Because he was really, technically speaking, the way all human beings should be. It's feeling that gets us into trouble. The feelings of love is not love. The feeling of hate is hate. And as a matter of fact, hate separates you from whatever love is, which is internal, and makes you addicted to taking away the pain of hate and filling the emptiness of hate separation from reality with external pleasures. So the more you hate, the more you love. You know what it's like when you kiss and make up. You fight and you kiss and make up. I won't use the real words, but you fight and you make up. See? And that's what it does. And you call it, and you sink lower and lower, and you love your emotions. You love to hate, and you love to love. And making love is really is leading to war. And making war leads back to making love. And between the two, you become dehumanized. Now, there is a divine emotion. There is an emotion of the soul somewhere, but it's not. Emotion arises as we fall. For instance, you're having a nightmare. I was discussing that the other night. And you feel emotion because you're not above emotion. You're refueled. You have a different energy, a different insight, a different belief system if you're not involved in your nightmare. And it's true that all of us are involved in a dream. And we all want to be something we can never be. And we all want to escape some things we become, trying to be that. We try to be gods, but we end up dogs. And the fact that we are a dog, a failure, we realize that. And if we're not involved in a dream, we will wake up. If we don't involve ourselves more deeply in fantasy, fueled by emotions. So the emotion fuels the fantasy, and the fantasy fuels the emotion. You know, in the nightmare, you're emotional, very emotional, and the emotion fuels the dream. And the dream makes the emotion. And somewhere, there's no answers. All you have to do is wake up. But the trouble is, do we want to wake up? Is the pride constituted? Is it resolved? Does it want to go on living its own existence? The only way it can live its own existence as God, apart from God, is in fantasy, fueled by emotion, love, hate. If people love you, you love them. They pump your ego up and you come down to accept that illusion of yourself. It's great relief. It reinforces the pride. It helps you doubt what you know isn't so. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you'd otherwise know. We're always in the process of doubting ourselves, even when people love us. What does that love do for us? We involve ourselves in the lie, in the feeling that comes from it. And it's really seeking people's love is really denying the truth of God and His saving love. We would feel without emotion, our illusions would begin to fall away, and we'd start to feel pain. We'd start to feel antsy. We start to feel insecure, guilty. How do we deal with that? We look for false innocence. We're always in the process of denying the truth, doubting the truth and believing in ourselves. We don't like to see that we're wrong, and then we involve ourselves with people who lie to us. And we give them the power, the means to lie to us. The drug addict gives the pusher the money to give him the fix. You give the musicians the music. Pay them to play music for you, and you get caught up with that. And that all renews the sense of faith that one has in the self, but a self gone wrong. Into this miserable, wretched earth, believing that emotions are good, is the biggest lie that was ever perpetrated on the face of the earth. But you will believe it. Every last one of you will believe it, because it's true that no matter how low you sink, and before you die, you will sink low. And that's what death is, falling away from reality, denying the truth, believing in yourself until you can't anymore, until hell opens up. But see, before you die, you're going to have to face the music. Something's gone wrong with your life. And I think we're going to start our discussion group. At this point, last time, we were talking about your father, the male in you, the man in you, and how a man got inside you, and how a woman becomes masculine. Is that where we were last time? Well, it's all because of emotions. Let me show you what. Go ahead, you can ask the question if you like. I know you.
Ever since I've been meditating, I've been listening to you for about 2.5 years and meditating for almost a year. And through the meditation, that has helped me I've seen the anger and the hatred and the resentment.
Towards whom? Your father.
My father.
I just want to sing it in concert with you.
That's okay. That's all right.
Now, you see what happens when you hate somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Hate is an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And hate comes when you're tempted to fall from love. When you were a little girl, you knew what love was, and you were closer to what love was and still is than you are when you grow older. But because your father was not a good example to you, because he was a wimp or a crazy drunk, one of the two, wimp, he's not there for you. His beyond, do you know what I mean when I say his beyond? Human beings are not only flesh bodies, but we have a spirit that guides us, and the spirit that gives us understanding and gives us our identity. The I, or the id entity. See how you can spell that? Maybe a play on words. An id entity, something within us. If we listen to our conscience, if we're taught to listen to our conscience by a loving father who has never lost his conscience, has never deferred to a woman, your mother, but he did, and he gave up his true self for a false self. This false self was a prideful self, and nothing good comes through a prideful self. Only big fat ego comes through knocking down to build yourself up. Building people up to knock them down and to make them dependent on your love, right? That sort of thing. So you see, nothing good comes from that. And if your father had been there for you, if his spirit, his beyond, had been there, that wonderful example of his allegiance to his conscience and the evolution of his gentleness, of his id entity, which would show love for you and protect you from the dark forces, which was your mother. Did you know that Freud said that? He said little children want their fathers to be a great and powerful, I'm not using the exact words, but they want their fathers to be an all-powerful force to protect them from dark and evil forces. He never said the evil forces were operating through the woman, but they are. And that's why men all succumb to that force. It's too seductive, too powerful. They're too conditioned from the day they're born because they never had a father. They were left with a mother, and therefore they were emasculated when they were children by their mothers, by the spirit beyond of the woman. However, how does a woman get an identity that's a man? She can get it from a woman, but very often from a manly woman. Okay? This manly woman can unload by tempting the child. See, a woman that has too much sex with her husband, or runs around, or is very power hungry, will become so satiated with the essence of the man, because men become women, And then women become men, and they get their authority and their essence and their power, even their intelligence. So, but a woman, when she becomes too masculine as a result of this exchange, she has to unload it somehow. So she has a daughter, and then she can make this daughter manly by she can tempt the daughter, upset the daughter, and by the reaction, a little bit of the essence of the mother goes into the child, and the child's femininity comes back to the mother, and she can go on being a whore. She can go on being attractive. So the female child grows up to be a tomboy, masculine, with a woman's identity, trying to be a man, trying to be feminine with men. See, some of the most masculine women are very feminine looking. If you notice that, they have a problem of identity, and of course they interact with weak men who like to have a fire lit under them like that, who are looking for the acceptance. You see, and see what's happening again. The same thing happens. The woman, instead of becoming more of a woman, she becomes more masculine. She takes more identity from the men. It doesn't really work the way you think it does. Now, the other way it happens, that's what can cause a young woman to become a lesbian. See, she can become masculine inside and not able to relate to women, but look at women like men do. See what I mean? But I'm going to one more thought. You're following me? See, you see it, don't you? Because you're actually experiencing it. And the other way is to hate your father. When you hate your father, that hatred, because remember, what you got inside the man that you hate is not a man. It's not a man's spirit. It's a woman's spirit tempting you. Is that right? So when it tempts you for not being there, or for being a violent, wicked person, or being just a little manipulating wimp, when you resent that, that resentment is what is a response to temptation. You're supposed to be protected by loving fathers from temptation, but how can he be? He is temptation personified, right? So because of what's in there, you resent him for not being there for you. You know what's missing, and you start to hate him for it. And when you hate him, you're separated from the ground of your true being. And into you comes his masculine identity. I see your little eyes tearing there. Is that right? And and he becomes more feminine. You actually become a man in a woman's body. Now, how does this work for you when you grow older? You're growing up, in this particular case, you're growing up to be more masculine inside, and you find then that this identity has to be fed. And it has to be fed from the same source that created it. Your father's weakness, his nothingness, it's really the woman in him. Your father's identity tempted you. It was identified with man anyway. Follow that? And there's a little bit of him, his image growing up inside you. You find yourself conditioned by trauma, by the trauma of hate. Attracted to all the men are just like your father. One of two things will happen. You're either going to work the problem out. You're well matched when you marry a man like your father, because you could work your problem out. You're like my husband and wife, like your mother and father were. They could have worked it out, because everybody is attracted. The man comes back to his mother, and the woman comes back to the father. See, sometimes they even call each other mother and father, don't they? See? Papa? Yes, Mama. You know, that's when they get near the end. But we can still save some of them out there that are listening, I hope. See, but you see, you are attracted to this. You could work it out, and you need to learn to work. You need this man back for one of two reasons. The dark side needs that man back to go on hating. But how do you attract a man? You offer him false love, like your mother did your father. It's the love that comes out of hate. It's a devil's love. It's a satanic love. It's a seductive love. It isn't love out of love. See, it isn't a love out of the original pure spirit. So it's love. It's when you're separated from love by hate, then something comes up to fill the void, and it's not real love anymore. It's something that understands the weakness of men and caters to it, and cuddles up to it and fulfills its need. But then it becomes weak, like your father did, and now There's this son of SOB, right? You hate him. And as he gets weaker, you hate his guts. And you keep feeding, because what hate plants, hate needs more. In other words, you were born out of hate. Men fall in love or lust. Women fall in hate. Women are addicted to hate. They love to hate. They love to hate, because that weakens the man, and they get it. The greatest pleasure they feel is hate. Believe it or not. They fill the insides of their being. But that's not the right way. You have to give up hating the poor sucker. You have to give it, because your mother never understood that. If she could give up hate, you give your husband a chance to recover himself. You didn't fight him and confound him and confuse him, upset him out of his wits. That's his conditioning. Back off a little bit. Remember when he was a little boy, he was a long time ago, he had a teary-eyed little boy and had the same kind of mother you are with him now, right? He never had a chance. You got to realize that.
You know,
If you have a good husband, if you had a good father, you love him. That's good. But if you have a bad father, don't hate him. That's good. Either way, you can't lose. But you practice not hating your father by not hating your husband, because he represents the father. And he also represents the spirit of the father too. The commandment, you mustn't hate your mother and father. If you have a good mother and father, that's nice. But if you have a bad mother and father, don't hate them. Remember, they had a bad mother and father. Follow that? And you found your fulfillment. It's that simple. You're on the wrong side of the aisle, but okay, I'll take you anyway.
When you answered the question, but I want to know, why does the man become like that, even though his mother died when he was born?
Well, you must have been taken care of by women. Men don't bother taking care of little whippersnappers like you. See, you must have had a grandmother, a surrogate mother, a sister. It's always, the upbringing of the children is okay with the mothers for a little while, but eventually the main upbringing of the child must be a noble father. But where are they? You see, if you look around you and if you look at the statistics, all the crimes, and most of them, the troubled teenagers and the mental illnesses, and all come from, they call single parent homes, dominated by a female. Too bad. You think they haven't learned their lesson, and judges still, the stupid nincompoops, still offer it to the children to the mother. It isn't that women are bad, they're not just capable of bringing up children alone, because they have the spirit of the dark side, because they've never known a man to love the hell out of them. They've only known men to love the hell in them, right? Yes, young lady.
Right, what you said to this lady was exactly, it's my life story, exactly.
What part of that? I mean, in specific.
Being born into the hate relationship. My father was a wimp, and my mother was a very, very masculine woman, and she injected her masculinity into me. And I even got to the point where I no longer felt feminine, and it was an effort.
And then you tried to be feminine with men.
Yeah.
And that's what got you into trouble, with more wimps.
Well, it got me into trouble further than that.
Because only wimps can need your service, because they have no initiative of their own, you see.
Well, I can see that now. I can
They
see
need that nice
now.
hot mama.
Rather not have anything to do with it. But what I was going to say is that I had mentioned earlier about the paralysis that I feel in the presence of authority.
Yes.
I see that same thing in my son. And it makes a hostility come up in me.
You mean towards your son, or because why can't he be man enough to stand up? Do you see that your son, perhaps where's the man in him that can save you from yourself?
Yeah.
You're looking to your son to save you, aren't you? Where no man has ever been able to love you, you want that love from your son.
Yeah,
Indeed, it's very fitting. It's actually
I
very.
don't want him to be
But hating him, but if you hate him, he'll become more of a wimp, because he's.
Well, I don't want to hate him either.
But you do. You want him to be a man?
Yeah.
Don't resent him for not being one. Because you see, don't you see that you have the power to destroy him by your impatience.
Yeah.
And your impatience says, I hate you. Your impatience signals him. Your thoughts about him are transmitted when you see that he's a wimp and he's not strong, just like his father. You start to become angry. But I think you need to take another look. I'm not so sure. There's two sides to this. One of you wants him to be a man to save you. There's another side of you that hates all men. So that when you see that he's a wimp like his father, remember he's a man. Pardon?
Or like my father.
Or like his father. You had to have a father, you had to have a man. Unless the last time this happened, 3 wise men came out of the east otherwise. All right. So you had a husband, a man at least. So you see, what had happened is that all men have used you. All men have failed you, and men have used you. They're one and the same, aren't they? So then you actually have a resentment towards all men. So you take opportunity to see, when you see wimpishness in your son, that is an occasion to hate. See? And that feeds your judgment of him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. He sees this ugliness in you to which he is born subject with no father. And he overreacts to it and becomes more subject to a woman. He becomes more of a woman. Who understands that? You're not giving him a chance. Be patient with him. You have a hatred of all men. I can't blame you. I can't blame you because all men have failed all women. There's probably another man born except JC. And just look at the effect that he had on women. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. Look at this, how she loved him. He wasn't a user, he was a lover. He had no use for women, but he had love for them. Most men confuse their use of women, which is the reinforce of the woman-induced trauma and identity, with love for them. They don't know the jerks don't know any different. But don't hate them. You women have to give men a chance. Because they've only known a mother, God, a godmother. They've never known a godfather. They've never known one. I mean, they've been cut off for eons. And it's called original sin, the sins of the fathers. See? And the powers of the mothers. The sins of the fathers are projected through the mother, through the failing of all men ever since the first man. Now, if anyone doubts that there was a first man, there must have been something that set it off, because men are not born with knowledge of truth. You know, right on one side and good and right and bad and wrong on the other side. There was none of you men remember this, making a choice between good and evil. You just wake up you wake up screwed up one morning. And if you look very carefully, it's come through your mother. And you're duplicating the same thing. Here you are, Adam and Eve. You're weak for women, but you never fell to women because you don't remember any choice whereby you could fall, become separated from the good, and become involved with the woman and the evil, or whatever it is, you see. Men have never known any truth. They've never known that they're born separate from it. It's called being born in sin. We're all wrong. Men fall in love because and women fall in hate. And because women fall in hate because men fall in love. They fall from what love is all about, looking for the woman to reassure them that wrong is right, that their ego life is the natural life and the only life that there is. And they keep reinvalidating that, keep looking for the woman to validate, until she gets sick and tired of his need for validation. He clings to her like a mother. He crawls inside her like a worm. Isn't that right? You can feel him pulling up the dark side of you. You don't feel clean. You want to kick him out. You do kick him out. It's funny, but it isn't funny, you know. I mean, I think the men are just laughing to hide embarrassment. Men are not men anymore. The trouble is, women are not women. They're males and females. See? There's a difference between a man. Most women have never known a man. They've known males. Male man, probably. Can't resist those. I think mine was a milkman. But they've only known males. This sexual egotistical person, see, and most most women and most men have never known a real woman. They'd be scared if they ever met a real woman, because what is unreal about them, what's wrong with them, has no tolerance for what's right with a woman. You see, if a man had the power to correct a woman, to love her, which is to correct her. Said, now put the apple down, Eve, but don't tempt me. I don't need your ego support. That's what I tell my wife. I love you. Without you don't have to tempt me, and you don't have to support me, and you don't stroke my ego. I don't need that. Well, then she feels like she hasn't a reason to exist anymore. You know what I mean? But if men would simply do that, but if men knew what was right and knew how to correct them, if they really knew and they don't, and they want to know, they would never correct a woman, because what's right in a woman can't support what's wrong in a man, and lie to him and make him feel good about himself. If you're a good woman, you'll scare off all the men. If you want to get married and you want to have involvement, yes, you just have to be a whore and you'll be fine. Take your pick. Good luck to you. You're going to need it. Well, there's no luck in that. You'll be barefoot and pregnant and deserted, beaten, and that's all you're going to get is an animal, not a man, a male man, and a milkman. Listen to my programs, listen to my radio programs, and watch my TV programs. Please support this broadcast. Otherwise, we won't be able to continue. So thank you very much, and join us in the next program.
Foundation of Human Understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. We're having a lot of fun here, I'm sorry, but I think, discovering shouldn't be too morbid, and I have a fairly decent sense of humor, and otherwise you couldn't handle what I'm about to tell you, what I have been telling you, so it makes it a lot easier. One doesn't have to be morbid, walk around with your nose in the air, I just want to be an ordinary person, tell a few rude jokes once in a while, just so you can get off your knees and you know that I'm only a man. If I walk around with a collar on backwards and have the usual regalia and the attire of a minister of God, you can sort of identify yourself and lose yourself in me and come out feeling religious, kosherized, but you're not kosher. You know what I mean? And I know that's the whole idea of most religion. You just want to have a person who is perfect, who is perfectly phony, because the phony in you needs phony religion. Real religion scare the hell out of you. It means you have to change and face yourself. All you prideful people like phony, baloney, a minister that doesn't say a whole lot. It's someone you can identify and learn verses and chapters and be caught up with, so that you can sort of draw upon his holiness. See? And I'm not that way. I just want to be little old winemaker me. I just want to be, God has given me a certain talent. And that I never went to school. As I've always said, I was fourth in my class when I was in school, but there was only 4 in the class. That's the truth. And I'm self-educated, and I'm a self-anointed. I'm self-appointed, but I think we all should be. You know what I mean? I mean, who made you our authority, or have you made me your authority? I mean, the world's got their authorities. They got all their people. The cannibals have cannibal kings, and drug addicts have pushers, and the religious people have their phonies to validate their silly little egos, whatever little rituals they have. But then you got me, and I'm coming from the same place as you're going to. See, and so the Christ's disciples were fishermen and people of not great renown, but people recognized them where they were coming from, because God's messengers are mostly people who are not educated. If I was educated, I couldn't sing this song. Just couldn't. As a matter of fact, the educated can't even hear what I'm saying, because they don't understand they don't understand the truth. Their mind is it destroys your ability to understand for the most part. So here we go with, there's a question back there, okay?
Both my father and my mother.
Maybe you could stand up, because we get, thank you very much.
My father had a stroke on his left side. He was partially paralyzed.
Serves him right.
And but my mother had that as well. In the last
Serves
year,
her right.
I see how she's gotten a lot worse since I've been meditating, and her left side is getting.
She probably
she
hated.
says it stings.
Listen,
more
she
than-
hated. She said she hated your father.
No, she
You-
never said that. But I wonder what is it about the left side?
My mother died. My mother died from a heart attack as well as my father. The trouble is, my mother became, in a sense, my father, and she developed the same kind of symptoms. It's not hard.
But why the left side? I mean, isn't there?
It's a difficult question to answer in a short period of time. It's another way of saying I don't know. But for some reason, you know, the left side of the mind controls the right side of the body, and the right side controls the left side of the body. Now, for some strange reason, it seems to me what controls reason is manifest on the left side, which is the right side of the brain, right? And I think if you will look at what the recent scientific findings, that the right side of the brain is perhaps the seat of reason and logic, or what they say is, it's somewhere in there, it controls that faculty. So therefore, when you become possessed and extremely emotional, and when the spirit forces, when you have the wrong identity, it seems to move or take over that side first, because then it governs the whole. The intellect is the other side, and the more aesthetic, more intuitive side seems to be functioning from this side of the hemisphere of the brain, and it seems to move into that side, affecting the left side of the body. Nearly always, when you have very emotionally disturbed people, you are talking about possessed people. People who are not themselves. People who have become other than what they were born. Very, very much so. Perhaps in what you call insane. There's no such thing as insanity, it's evil. You're not going to deal with insanity with drugs and pills. It's not just a mental condition, it's a spiritual condition. It's something that gets inside and thinks through us. And thinks anti-religious, anti-moral, anti-good thoughts. It's dark thoughts as opposed to light thoughts, you see. So my answer is, that's the best answer I can give you. That if it makes sense to you or not. Psychiatrists and psychologists will one day realize you cannot deal, when you're dealing with mentally ill people, even people who are not so mentally ill, who can function in daily lives. After all, who makes mentally ill people? It's the mentally ill people in hospital and in mental asylums and criminals in institutions, penitentiaries, are made by people who never get there. You can be a carrier. You don't have to have AIDS, but you can give it. You don't have to have ulcers, but you can give them. See? And so you pass. So it's not only with diseases, but it's also with this condition of spirit. So you got a kid that commits suicide, a kid who is on drugs, and you see this caring mother running down the jail, trying to help him, taking to all the psychiatrists, scrubbing the floors to pay the whatever it is to cure this kid. And everyone sees a concerned mother, but the child sees a hypocrite. Child sees something ugly in there, nobody else sees it. And it's driving him insane. And his reaction to her, projects what's in her into him. So the world sees his insanity, but not hers. Who understand that? Oh, I see. So you see, so what appears is made by what is not seen. See? And so half the people in the nut house and half the people are in the penitentiary, but they're put in there by the other half. The ones who are all crazy, they're not where they belong. The ones that drove them there, those are the ones I'm after, and they're watching television. Hello. Hello there. We're watching you. We just bust your bubble. You can't fix it. Now, yes, the lady back there.
You just hit
Can you
my
stand up a
bubble.
little bit so we can see your mug?
You just hit my bubble when you're talking about driving children insane.
Yes.
I became a stepmom about a year ago.
Yes.
And I can see the
Does stepmom mean you step on your kids?
Absolutely. Which I didn't know was in there. And
I
it's
know.
like, it's coming out in such anger.
Can you
and I
imagine?
just-
Here's a woman who knows it's in there now, and but what about the women who don't know it's in there? They keep doing it, and they never will stop.
But I'm having a hard time stopping.
You resent
And-
knowing it. You resent seeing yourself in this light, don't you? That's why. See, don't you see that if I was your friend and I told you something about yourself that wasn't pleasant but were true, and you resented me, would you expect me to tell you again? If you didn't take correction, it's the same thing with God. But how do you know that you are this person? It's that you're enlightened. There's a light within you says, listen, you're a witch. Right?
Is that why when this lady said that she told her children to help her, to let her know when she was not patient? And I thought about doing that for about 3 months.
Isn't
and
that
I keep
nice?
stopping it.
Why?
And I think I just realized why.
Why?
I asked her in there, I was afraid of what they'd say back to me. I was afraid they'd manipulate me into getting out of doing something that they should be doing.
That's not
And
the
she
that's not the
said-
real truth.
I know. She said that they would respond with love. And I know the littlest one would respond with love, but the older one would respond with the dagger and tell me exactly that I'm the wicked woman that I am. And
Right.
then it'd be back on me
To
as
look-
how to respond to him.
That's right. See,
That
now,
I would be vulnerable and humble to him.
you see,
and
that's
so
your
it
pride.
stops me
That's your
from-
pride speaking, isn't it? That's the
Yeah.
same thing as I said in the last discussion. That that if a man could correct a woman, if he knew all about what that meant and had the power to love the hell out of a woman, he wouldn't. And the reason why is because he needs the wrong in her to support what went wrong with him. You don't think the drug pusher would correct the dope pusher, would you? Or the drug addict would. He wouldn't, because something in him needs that person, because his whole existence depends on it. And so therefore the wickedness of men will not stand up to a woman, because the minute he would stand up to her and correct her with the love that might be there to do so, because you have to have that love, that spark would jump across, awaken her, and she would start to flower as a real woman, and this real woman will no longer go along with this unreal man. Now, it's the same principle with your children.
With my children?
It's the same principle.
Be in the same way?
Not quite the same thing. You're the vampire. And you see, your mother ate your guts out. You gave your life to her, and she put her identity in you, and that identity can only live by violating the children, biting them, backbiting, and being impatient, upsetting them. Then they react. You pass along the spirit of the woman, of great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother, yours. You put it into them, but the reaction causes them to give off life to you. Because haven't you noticed when you need that energy, you get irritable for no reason at all? And you start to want to pick a fight with something that's weaker than yourself? You won't pick a fight with your mother. You pick a fight. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
You draw her.
boys
You
will
draw.
have like an hour of work, and sometimes they'll have like a certain job. The older one has gotten so, because he wants to be good and please mom, he'll get it done in 10 minutes.
But you know, see, the trouble, he's a conformist.
Yeah, but
You got a
then-
rebel and a conformist in your house.
Yeah, but then because he's got it done, it's like I want to give him more work because he didn't argue with me. He like did it. And
That's right. See,
insane.
there's something
But I
not so
noticed it's
satisfying
like-
about that, is there?
Yeah. And it's like, all right, I'm going to give you more.
But part of
Get
you,
it done.
part of you would like that man to stand up to you, say, "No, mother, I'm not going to do it. Get lost." See, part of you needs a man to stand up to you.
Right.
You see, something that, you know, you hope, but what do kids understand? I mean, that they're not able to give you that. One of the the nicest thing my mother ever did for me, and I think, I'm not so sure if this saved me or not, but when my father died when I was 14, so immediately she transferred the authority of the home to me. And Jesus' mother called him Lord. She looked up to him. Well, not that his father was dead, he probably was dead also, you know, like most men. But the point is, she immediately put me in charge and consulted with me. I was old enough, I suppose. And I would say that was a very wise thing to do, even though she may not have done it quite consciously, because it brought out the manliness out of me towards the woman. I was then able to rise to the occasion of a woman's need. I didn't understand that. I would correct my mother. I would show her, you know, that she was getting upset and her sick headaches and all the cause. I knew that when I was very, very young. Of course, she wasn't correctable. And I was very rarely impatient with her. One time, I pulled the phone out of the wall, I think. You know, I mean, that was the... you know, but I realized this is silly, you know, this is ridiculous. So it brought that side of me. And you have to treat your young lady, you must look, and this is very, very painful to your ego, because you have to bring out the man, the spirit of the man in your children. Let's say you don't have a husband. Some of you women don't have husbands. What you need is, if you're wise, and you're not one of those backbiters that, you know, irritate the kids and take their life from them and make... You know, have you ever seen people who aggravate you and they walk away strong and you feel weak, drained? That's what's happening in real life. You're draining the life out of the children and making them into little replicas of mama. See what I mean? You know, women like mother and men that need mama. See what I mean? So what you have to do is to not be impatient with your male children, because remember I said a few moments ago, most women hate all men, and they resent their own children, especially because it reminds them of the man they hate, the father they hate, the husband they hate. And they get the same kind of effect out of their children as they did. See? They try to get their children to worship them, and if they don't, she gets upset with them. And when she gets upset with them, the kids react, and now the children have a choice. Two crazy choices: to respond and be devoted to mother, and with anger, and to respond and to, you know, rebel. And you see, but either way they carry away with them the spirit of their mother in them. The rebel goes out and finds a woman that will serve him. See, because he's still woman's. Whether you rebel or conform, you still have, you're connected to the source. If you hate your mother, you'll find a nice loving woman. You see, the hate separates man. The hate of a woman, and obviously being turned against his father as well. The hate of mother and father, even as a rebel, we won't conform to mother or father, especially mother, who's the dominant one. That hate separates him from the ground of his own true being, so that he can't possibly be a whole person without a woman. He needs a woman to hate. First of all, but how does he get a woman to hate? He finds the one that loves him first. See? That was just like his mother. And then she turns out to be just like his mother. He never expected that, because he's trying to run from his mother, and there she is again. He pulls that out of her, see? And then she hates him, and now he's got the hate. And he's got the love, then he's got the hate, and then down the hill they go. So, what you have to, so ladies, what you need to do is to see that if you're a woman alone, and I know I'm talking to a lot of ladies alone, is if you want your men to be bathed, the buck has to stop here somewhere. you've got to realize that you do hate your children. You do hate your male children. And in your hatred of men, you will emasculate them by being angry with them, because they will be angry back. The monkey see, monkey do. They are bonded to you very emotionally. So if you're angry with them, they will feel your displeasure, and they will feel your rejection and resent you for it. And then the miserable choices begin for them. See? You know, the damned if they do and damned if they don't. It's either way. So what you need to do is be very patient with your children. But that way, you can't feed off your children's life, and you can't project the bad into them. You can't project the contemptible. That part that's, you see what I mean? Which you enjoy hating. And when that happens, you see, love comes through you. When you deny yourself the pleasure of contempt, it is only out of love that you're willing to die and be born again. Because you see, the mother in you keeps living by mothering, bitching, witching sort of thing with the children. It's the ongoing thing. So if you're willing to die, give up your resentment. Give up your impatience. Because it's only that impatience that wants to feed itself on the downfall of its children. Don't you see that? It's much more than meets the eye. And then the love, when you give up feeding yourself on this, the spirit of your mother begins to die, and the spirit of truth comes in, and then it's able to guide, appoint the male children to put it in the position of being men with women. See what I'm saying? It brings out the light in the children and their natural leadership of women, even if they're younger than smaller than you. There's a leadership quality in them, and then you can find the man you were looking for, even in your own children. Who understands that? Yeah, the gentleman right there.
I'm keyed into something you're saying, and I don't want to lose it.
Okay.
Okay, isn't the true lunacy of all this is, let's call this evil thing an evil thing. It takes a piece of itself and puts it into something which isn't itself,
Right.
and it's enjoying hating itself. So in a sense, it's a form of psychic masturbation. It's hating itself. It's not hating anything other than itself, and the way it keeps itself going
Well,
is by pulling a piece of itself out and masturbating itself over hating itself. That's essentially what it's doing.
We could discuss that other subject another time. But it's not quite the same. You know, you use the wrong terms,
Okay,
but you got close to it. Well, it's not quite that, but it's into itself. Let me put it this way. Mother, dope pusher, anybody tempts you, puts the stress on you, the pressure on you, puts the squeeze on you. When you're young, you can't deal with it. You react with anger. You can react. If it's not with anger, you'll recover. But the resentment, which is the purpose of the perpetrator, the spirit of your wicked perpetrator, dope pusher, manipulator at school, teacher, priest, I don't care. There's something very cruel in there that wants you to react with one special emotion, not just ordinary anger, but with something called resentment. It's a little tiny feeling that's more than, it's in your head somewhere, see? You can feel it, like a barbed dart. This is the hate, the creature of hate. Resentment is hate. Don't ever mistake that. You never see it till it's too late. It's very subtle, and it sticks in there and breaks off like you're being impregnated. Like the sperm going in there, and it wiggles in there, and the tail breaks off, and now you're growing into a new person in there. Changeling the identity, see? Now this changeling is no longer, it's the violated self. It's no longer the person God intended it to be. It is, this person it's fallen. The reaction pulls you away from a memory of how to grow, a programming that you were given at birth. It's like fall. And you'll be surprised, all these teachings right now, these wonderful things you're discovering, the first time you get upset, you'll forget everything I ever taught you. It's like, who's had that happen to them? It's like I never existed. Because it's the kind of thing that doesn't live in the realm of memory. Understanding is beyond memory. See, you don't need memory to understand. It's like seeing. Only a blind man needs to remember, but a person who can see has no need for his memory, because his eyes tell him again and again. When things change, he notes it. A blind man will stumble over someone who put something in his path because he's not able to note change. See? So, forgot the turn of thought, isn't it terrible? Anyway, you see the point. It's the spirit of that person cohabiting inside you, and now it in you is the extension of it in them. Follow that? And this is the brainchild of this other person who violated you, who tempted you, who put themselves in you. And the self in you cries out for the self in them, and it's usually mama. It's the spirit of mama. It isn't mama at all, but one recognizes the physical place as mama. So you see?
So at that moment,
it goes
when
back.
you're being patient.
Yeah.
I've seen what you're talking about.
Right.
With the patience with my sons. But at that moment, the pain is great, and that pain is
The pain rises in you to backbite him, to be impatient with him. He's hungry. You're hungry for his life. You'll die otherwise.
No, Roy, but what I'm saying is that at that moment where I am trying with everything in me to be patient.
You can't be. If you're trying, you're doing it wrong.
Is a pain, and correct me, and this pain that I feel is wanting his life, or however you put it.
You're hungry.
Or if I deny it, it's dying. Correct?
Exactly. You're irritable. You've got to get something to react to you. Something weaker than yourself you could project into. And in that moment of projection, when it takes, he gives off life, energy. You put 2 Alka-Seltzers in a glass of water, and you breathe that stuff in, and you feel better right away. And people effervesce, they react, and there's a psychic transmission of energy. It's really a fact. And I tell you something, this fact of reacting and then being imbibing the energies of that, it can be found in electronics. Very simple thing. You take a coil of wire, see, and run electrical current through it. You know, positive, negative, and it becomes a magnetic field, right? You know about that much so far? And you take another coil of wire without any power source, with 2 wires coming away, right? Now you bring these 2 together. Guess what happens? When you bring them together, the charged field jumps across and is absorbed by the dead field, and it comes alive. It takes energy. It's called a transformer. It's energy by induction, they call that. You take you know those little suckers you put on the side of the telephone, and you can hear a conversation? How did that happen? That's exactly what it is. It picks up the energy. It's a sucker. And you're suckers too. In a sense that literally, when you have a very powerful person, but an energyless person, when you have little children with energy, you have to tap into that, and you get that by getting them to fall and give off their life. And you put into them something that can't live without you. So it has to react in order to have an identity. Your children have to react. They need to be upset. They need a mother that's upset with them all the time, because otherwise they can't have an identity. But they have to give up their life. When they grow older, they have to take it out on somebody else to get their life and feed the identity. The identity is a lion. It has to be fed. Who understands that? All right, well, this is something you've never heard to tell before, but next week we'll talk about it again. So please support the program, otherwise there will be no next week. I need your energy, but I hope you give it willingly. There's a big difference. It'll be good for all of us. Thanks for listening and watching. Joseph.